Yeah, perfect. So, hi, good morning, everyone. It's about 1:15 a.m. here.
Yeah, it's 150.
So, yeah, I hope everyone's not as sleepy as I am. I'll try to get to the end of this presentation as fast as I could,
Okay.
because I think we have a time crunch here, if I'm not wrong, Usman.
Time what? Not really, but
No,
no, there is no like time limits like to the Google Meet account that we are using. So
okay, okay, perfect, perfect. Yeah, so we'll just get started. So before I start, I see that we have about 22 people,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah,
So I mean, out of 22 people, I'm guessing most of you are students like me, and so I'm a third year student. I'm pursuing BTech CSAI. So I'll just give you a brief background about myself. So yeah, I've worked as a full stack developer, as a security consultant, and recently I got an internship at RCCM, which is one of DShaw's groups. And yeah, I find myself really lucky to be landed up here, and I hope someday all of you could also land up at even better companies like Microsoft or Google. So yeah, that was a bit about myself, and today we'll just be getting through on how to actually get an internship at these big tech companies, because people feel that getting an internship here is extremely hard, it's crazy hard, but trust me, it's not that hard once you know what the actual process is. I went into the same process, the same mindset, and yeah, they sell it to you like it's something really hard, but in reality, it's not at all that hard. So, uh, why do you think we need to get into tech? Why do you guys want to get into tech? Any answers? If any of you could raise your hands.
yeah. If I mean, for me personally, I mean, what if I'm going to okay, there are a lot of okay. Someone is calling us.
I would say basically I'm going into tech because of the law of evolution. So come we had Stone Age, and after Stone Age farming came in. My forefather sure went into farming. They followed the trend, and so they made the profitable use out of it, and got the skill, love the skill, and make good use of it, even push out the skills. So I drive in going into tech is to, yes, acquire the knowledge, build on the knowledge, make it a lifestyle, and yes, also bring in more people as much as possible, because that's the trend of life now, evolution.
Wow, I'm inspired.
Right, right. Perfect.
I-
Any other
Is
answers?
there any other answer? Uh, go on, go on, go on, go on, go on.
Okay, I think I'm going to take because I want to build amazing stuff. So I want to make an impact because we're in Nigeria. You may not be able to make impact in other areas. Maybe let's say, it's not easy for you to make an impact maybe in the healthcare because you might need lots of capital to start. So I think the easiest way to make a difference is in tech. So that's why I'm there.
Perfect, perfect. So all of your reasons are actually much more profound than what my reason was. So my reason for getting into tech was money. But again, I've been told that that's a very wrong approach, and I've come to understand that it's not just about the money. And yeah, I love both of your views on that. So I think you're in the right place. Tech is a very fast-paced industry, and like you said, you can actually build stuff here much easily compared to if, let's say, what we were to set up a factory for something in manufacturing. You can actually make a huge impact here from tech by with just your laptop and an internet connection. And I think people underestimate that a lot.
Yeah.
So, is it for you? Like, tech is, in my opinion, it's not for everyone. There are a lot of people who are out there who actually want a job that's constantly engaging, that keeps you on your feet. And yes, tech does keep you on your feet, but it's not at all anything compared to what other jobs require. Like, let's say for consulting, you need to be traveling, you need to be on your feet, you need to be talking to your clients. And there are some aspects to it in tech, but tech interesting in the start, but when you get to pushing it to production, uh, so there's a difference between developing your own project and actually pushing it to production. There's a lot that goes into production, and again, a lot of boring stuff goes into that. So be prepared for that. And finally, my favorite question: will ChatGPT make us obsolete? So, any answers?
I mean, let's see, people, just say your opinion. I mean, this is just a free word. I'll probably say ChatGPT will replace many people. I'm just saying. I mean, somewhat one was also replaced right now, so is anyone? Christian. I can call on people. I mean, Christian Aziba is here. Oh, there is Mustafa. Okay, Mustafa just gone. Uh,
Yeah.
oh, two people. Okay. Oh, okay. Christian, go on.
Mustafa should take the floor
Okay,
first.
okay,
When he's done, I will
okay,
speak.
okay. Mustafa.
Okay. Yeah. Well done. So actually, I don't think ChatGPT can make us obsolete because it's not easy. Because first of all, most developers are not. I can say that okay. If the way that all this AI, what they really need is prompting. So for some people to understand what prompt means is difficult and how they normally interact with the AIs. So for the ChatGPT to replace us, because I personally as a developer have worked like I've been trying before like on my project at the academy I've been trying okay to sort some things out on it, but the answers I get sometimes it might be something wrong. Like it might not even give me something that is better. But it is very, very useful and make our work easier in some aspects, not everything. In fact, I can say that out of 100%, maybe like 20% from my side,
Uh,
as per my own experience and all. Yeah.
I use ChatGPT a lot to complete assignment too.
Okay,
I think we're all
let me
guilty of that.
Christian,
let me add my
good.
opinion to that of Mustafa. Of course, we're very much in line. Personally, I don't think ChatGPT can replace us. I also want to believe that when David uses the word us there, is referring to the engineers in tech. So, of course, ChatGPT cannot replace the engineers. In fact, the engineers have to remain so as to improve on this software, right? People built ChatGPT, people are maintaining ChatGPT, and of course, ChatGPT needs the skills of even more engineers to improve on how it works and how it delivers content to its users. So basically, for me, I think AI has only come to make the work of software engineers more easy, right? Just to give us a better platform to utilize the little we know to produce more. And I think that's how it's been thus far. And I don't see anything changing in the nearest future. It's just to help us work better. And if you're good in the field, you always find a place to remain relevant.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Right.
Wow.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So I'll give you the answer. There is no right answer. So even God doesn't know if AI will replace us. Maybe Sam Altman if he knows what's coming out in GPT-5. But right now nobody knows if AI will replace us. But right now, currently, as you said, it's not at a stage where you can fully replace someone. It's definitely making a life a lot easier as compared to let's say just using Google manually searching everything and then going on to Stack Overflow. But I'll give you an interesting fact. So when GPT came out, I'm sure most of you are familiar with Check. It's a platform where users can ask questions, and so questions would be like textbook questions, examples that need to be solved. Some answers are not available, especially in college textbooks. The solutions are not readily available in the public. So all of these are posted on Check. But right after GPT came out, Check's revenue dropped by about 82%. So that's just one example of how GPT is making life harder for a lot of other platforms. The platform is called Check, C
check, check, yeah.
Yeah. So there was also a very famous quote. I don't know who said that, but it goes like, AI will not replace you. People who know how to use AI will be replacing you. So companies would prefer people who know how to use AI, which can leverage their full potential to maximize the productivity. They also don't want employees just billing absolutely rubbish time on their time. Just keep searching Stack Overflow. If you can get it done in GPT, in let's say 5 minutes compared to 1 or 2 hours on Stack Overflow. So yeah, that was the introduction. So before we start into the actual interview process, you also need to understand the tech industry. You need to understand the key trends in the industry right now, and based on the key trends, it can help you a lot in your technical interviews as well as especially your HR rounds. So before you apply for let's say any of the jobs, you need to understand what trend that industry is going on. So again, tech is an industry of its own, but there are a lot of sub industries below that. We have cloud development, we have software development, we have compiler dev. So there's a lot of things. So right now you can see the new AI boom. That's definitely an industry trend. I mean, the AI boom itself has given rise to 2 or 3 more new roles. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of prompt engineering, where people get paid just to instruct AI what to do. And even Uber was mass recruiting prompt engineers just a couple of months back. So we have AI ML researchers who've gone up like crazy. People have been getting offers left and right from AI companies, especially people who have a master's or an undergrad with an AI major. And there are also different sectors and roles in this industry. We have ST, which is a stable software development. We have data analysts. That would basically be scientists that is gathering data, loading data sets, visualizing it, and making inferences that okay, I have this data, but what does it actually mean? Because you can't just present let's say 2 million rows to the CEO. You actually need to pre-process it, run some inferences, and then just give him the key points that okay, saves are dropping because XYZ users are not clicking here, users are not clicking there. Then we have DevOps. So DevOps is basically the development operations that includes CI/CD pipelines. Basically everything that goes into making the current development process completely production ready and ready for deployment on the cloud. We have security analysts, which is in the cybersecurity field, and quant dev. So quant dev is more on the finance side, but this is I'd say one of the most high-paying jobs right now. So quant dev is basically quantitative finance. So we have quantitative finance would be heavy on statistics. So they would basically run some statistical tests, give you a strategy, and the quant dev role would be to actually code up the strategies and backtest it. And okay, you gave me the strategy, but it's not working good in the live markets. So that's what quant dev is. So after that, we get into the interview process now. That okay, we've understood what the tech industry is. I want to get into tech. We've been through all of that. Now, what's the interview process like? So this is common for 95-96% of the companies out there. So it generally starts off with a general test and resume shortlisting. So this is also called the pre-placement test. So companies usually come to campuses for let's say giving a talk about the company. That okay, who are we? What do we do? What's our culture? And that is followed by a pre-placement test. That would basically be including aptitude and a lot of other things. I'll be covering that later on. So after you've cleared that, you have your technical interview one. So first, one technical interview is guaranteed for every company, unless you applying for let's say a startup. The startup would not even have the first 4 points; they'll directly jump to HR because they just want people joining in and to be honest, working for cheap. So before you join a startup, I'd say reconsider your position. If they're giving you equity, great. If they're not, if you just want to gain experience, great. But in a lot of cases, startups try to rip you off. So after the first technical interview, there might be 4 or 5 more technical interview rounds, but generally there are a minimum of 2 to 3 interview rounds for every company. And after that, there might be a group discussion, but this is optional based on the role that you're applying. So if it's a more managerial role, you will basically be sat down at a table. You'll be given a topic that okay, this is a topic. You have 5 minutes to gather your thoughts. Again, you how do you communicate your views and all of that. And finally, after you've been through all of that, we have the HR round. So this is basically more or less a formality round. Uh, the company is saying, okay, we know you're qualified. Now we just want to know if you're a good fit for our company's culture. So this might include questions about you, what do you do, what do you like, uh, leadership skills. Uh, they also ask about your family's background. So the main goal of that is to assess that, okay, what kind of upbringing have you had, and if your, let's say, if your dad's a big shot. I mean, I wouldn't say that's a major role, but if I'm being honest, that definitely helps. So that's the HR round. I'll also get into HR round later on, but 90% of the of the applicants move forward from the HR round and they get hired. The 10% that get dropped, that those would be complete introverts who the company thinks would not be a good fit for the company, or let's say someone has a firing history, they've been fired in the past. So HR round is basically meant to filter all of that. So we'll jump into the first step, which is crafting your resume. So how many of people here have a resume right now? Could you just raise your hands?
I think I have one. I mean,
Alright, I see about
few
four
people.
hand raised.
Yeah.
Okay, so only four of you have a resume.
Did you say
Okay,
how many people do have a resume or don't have a resume?
Have. Have.
have.
Okay.
Okay, I see a lot of people don't have resumes. Again, that's not an issue, but I mean, if you're in college, I would strongly recommend if you start building your resume out right now. It doesn't have to be the final draft. You will keep adding things to it over time. But once you have the basic template set up, you have the basic structure set up. I mean, it gets really easy to modify it further. It gets
Ah,
really easy
Devesh.
to let's say,
Devesh. I also noticed like some of the participants they are not currently like college students. While some are currently college students, I have seen like quite numbers of people who are probably like who already like graduated college, so we might try to like consider them also.
then what?
They already like graduated college, like they are not like in college right now. I mean,
Okay, then
like
high
some of
school.
the participants, yeah, I just noticed that right now.
Okay, okay. No worries, no worries. So if you're in high school, I mean, I'd say that's
Not high school,
hella
like
decent.
they're already like older people, like you get. So like they're already like outside college. Yeah, they already graduated college, something like that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Got it, got it. Yeah, I
Then
mean,
in
I don't
Nigeria
think I'm
own now.
setting any points.
We don't get degree. Ah,
Okay, like so like what he's trying to say is that like you shouldn't really like some students are in college while some are not in college, like some of the participants. So that is basically what he's trying to say actually. Yes.
Okay, okay, got it. I don't think I've set any college specific points
Yeah,
for
yeah.
now. Again, if I have,
I'm just trying to
yeah.
let you notice. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, yeah, cool, no worries. So, again, resume is very important. This is what you will be sending out to companies. This is how they'll be judging that, okay, what skills do you have, where have you worked, were you performing good in schools. In fact, some companies don't prefer people who have a CGPA of 9.6, 9.8 or more, because I'm not clear on the reason, but I've seen a lot of companies, I'm even running a lot of places, companies prefer not to hire from colleges who have, let's say, an average CGPA of 9.2, 9.3. That just says that the college is giving marks to everyone. So yeah, again, it's very important to showcase your achievements and skills effectively in your resume. As I said, you need to also tailor your resume to highlight relevant experiences. So in a lot of application processes, uh, let's say the company is you're aiming for is not coming to your campus for hiring, or again, wherever you're going, you need to include relevant keywords because companies receive hundreds of resume applicants every day. At least big companies do, and they can't review all of them manually. Some do, which is great, but most of them generally what's the frequency of, let's say, the word keyword AI in your resume, or synonyms of AI, something like that. So it's very important to include relevant keywords here. And especially for tech roles, you'll also need to include a skills section. So skills section would be something like, okay, I know XYZ languages. I can work with Bash. I know TCP protocols. I know HTTP protocols, something like that. So again, these skills should be specific to the tech community you're applying to. I would not recommend you put your skills like, let's say, I know how to play the guitar, I know how to play badminton. That's not the skills I'm talking about. I'm talking about tech skills, which is relevant to the role that you're applying for. So skills section is very important. Again, if you're applying for a non-tech role, skills section doesn't really make sense in most of the cases. So if what you do if you don't have experiences, companies value experience the most. But if you, let's say, don't have experiences or you have very few of them, which doesn't fit up your resume and make it look nice, what you could do is you could just club the projects and experiences section together. It's generally meant to be a separate section, but you can club them together to, okay, let's say, I have experiences and projects. I've worked at XYZ company and I've worked on ABC project. Now again, if it's in a single section, it's easier for them to review, and it's also more impactful. It's not in a separate section. If a lot of reviews, if they see a project section, they also tend to ignore it. So you can club projects and experiences, and it's very important that your resume is one pager. So any resume anything longer than one page, even if it's just, let's say, 4 or 5 words, it's not recommended. You can definitely submit that. There's no limit to it. But even a lot of people working right now for more than 20, 30 years, their resumes are only one page. So even if you have a lot of points to put on your resume, what I personally do is I remove certain points for the role I'm applying which are not relevant, and I try to include points which are more relevant to the role just to make it fit in one page. So it's very important to make it fit in one page. Again, you can find these resume templates online very easily. So again, now we get to the general test, which is basically the entry point. So your resume has got shortlisted by the company. This is the process if you're applying on the online portal of a company. So this could be through LinkedIn, this could be through through their career portal, and if it's a college, resume shortlisting happens after the general test instead of before. So online portals, first step is resume shortlisting. After that, you get to the general test. So general test basically includes two parts, three parts, I'd say. First would be the aptitude part. So the aptitude part is very low time limit. You'll be given, let's say, 30 questions and you'll have 15-20 minutes to solve it. So they don't expect you to solve all of the questions. If you can, that's great. But what they expect to see is how fast is your thinking, how fast is your reasoning to solve maximum questions in the given time period. So that's the aptitude part. Again, be very careful about the time limit here. I personally used to on the time limit in my first test, and yeah, I think that's very important. The second part would be, again, all of these are multiple choice questions. Uh, I've never seen them give that, okay, write XYZ answers. You will never be given something to write and explain your views on. These would be multiple choice. Third would be the theoretical section where they basically ask you basic OS concepts, operating system concepts, how an operating system and a kernel works, basic programming fundamentals. So these would be what are variables, what are loops, why does C++ need to be compiled, what's the advantage of C++, a compiled language versus an interpreted language like Python. So you need to be familiar with all of that. So this is the theoretical part. A lot of people actually tend to perform very poorly in the theoretical part, even if they have very strong reasoning skills. That's because they feel that the theoretical parts are not necessary, and it is not necessary for majority of the time. But that is once you get into the company. When you're actually applying for the company, you need to be strong on your theoretical. So for technical interviews, so before I go on here, how many of you feel that? How many of you develop here right now? How many of you
you okay? I mean, you can just raise up your hand. I mean, to I think I've developed some small, some random shit, some small application.
Okay, we'll take one answer and we'll move on.
Okay, should someone talk?
Yeah, yeah, they should.
Yeah, I mean, Victor, can you just, I mean, if you want to like talk about something that you have developed?
My own Victor.
Yeah, yeah, yours.
Okay, so a few months ago, I was in an internship. So my team and I worked on a cross-border payment platform that makes use of blockchain um, behind the scene to transfer money from maybe Nigeria or wherever the person is. So we just do the transaction behind, and then let the user just interact with the user interface basically. So we just the main aim was to make the process seamless for the user, non-technical users to easily transfer with blockchain technology. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And do you feel that, so do you have any prior experience in development? How did you get started in development?
So I took development seriously last year, and I'm still doing that now, trying to get more consistent with it. So yes.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So, I mean, you're working on some really cool stuff. You're also getting into the Web3 world, which is again a very good example of the current technological trend. So, 5 years ago, the Web3 world wasn't really moving a lot. It started moving once Ethereum came out with their smart contracts. They allowed people to actually uh, programmatically add their logic on the blockchain. So, yeah, I think it's very good that you're developing projects. You also worked on a couple of real projects uh, in your past internships. Uh, but the thing is, when you actually interview for a big tech company, development skills are not what they judge you on. So I'll give an example of a test that we have here in India. So it's called JEE. It's basically a very competitive test to get into IITs, which are like the top ranked college universities here. So they make you learn like a shitload of stuff, but once you actually get in, only I'd say 5-10% of it gets used. So what was the point of actually giving the exam? The point was to actually filter students out on how well are, how well are they able to show up for the same thing again and again. How well did they actually understand the concepts if they were studying on their own? How well are they able to adapt to new questions? So that's the same thing with technical interviews. It's good that you know development. It's definitely a plus point for you. But I've seen a lot of people who are very good developers, but they're very good at uh, algorithms, problem solving. So what tech companies filter people on, what you can say the exam for tech companies is, that would be the technical interview, which is the DSA round. So DSA is basically data structures and algorithms. Like Usman said, you cannot get into tech companies without strong DSA. So that's what our next point is. What the common problems are in a technical interview. So a lot of times DSA is something that a lot of people overlook. If they have an excellent CV, if they have excellent projects in the past, if you don't have strong DSA, you'll get rejected. So DSA, there are a lot of resources for practicing DSA out there. I think there's a website called Geeks for Geeks. I think most of you must be familiar with this. There's a course on here which is DSA from scratch, which is that's about 6,000 INR. I'm not sure how much that is in Nigeria, but if you can get through this entire course, I can personally tell you that you'll be very well off for any of the interviews that you do in the future. 80-90% of the cases you'll be able to get through the interview. There are some 10-20% outliers, but that's also partly luck. You also have to be lucky if you have a good interviewer, if they have good questions. So yeah, I think this is a really good platform to practice your coding skills. You learn a lot. They also teach you stuff from scratch. Uh, so before applying for a tech interview, or let's say if you've gotten shortlisted for some position, you should practice DSA before you actually sit down for the interview rounds. There's also another site called Code Forces. So this is not a very beautiful website, but this is a very extremely fast compared to Python. It's easier to code in Python, but some of the low-level access that you get in C++ optimizes your speed a lot. And again, it's a combined language, right? So generally the generally the boost is about 100 to 120 times what Python is. So if Python, let's say, takes 800 milliseconds, your C++ code might just do it in 10-15 milliseconds. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. I would say if you're not started with any language, C++ would be a very great, good place to start. C++ is almost the same. They are just a minor package dependencies that are different. But yeah. So these are the common problems that are asked in technical interviews. So these would be sorting algorithms. I personally was asked two sorting algorithms in my interviews. So it was bubble sort and quicksort. Bubble sort I've seen being asked to a lot of my friends as well. So bubble sort is something that you need to be strong on. But sorting algorithms, there are about 8 to 10 major sorting algorithms, and you need to have a basic idea of how they work, what the runtime is, and which algorithm works best in what scenario. So if you have a lot of outliers, what sort of algorithm would work better? If you have a lot of values which are really close to each other, what algorithm would work better? So first would be sorting algorithms. Second would be object-oriented programming concepts. So these would be what are classes, how does inheritance work, uh, how do you define a function, uh, and these would be very small and minute details like, okay, if I have inherited two functions and there's a dependency with class C, how would you account for that? So there are some concepts called virtual inheritance and all of that. So you need to be very strong on that. OOP concepts, again, if you search for all of this, you'll get a ton of resources, and all of these are covered in great detail on Geeks for Geeks. They also have a free YouTube channel where you can actually go ahead and learn all of this, and you'll also be able to see a lot of these DSA problem solutions. So that I will give you a good idea of how they approach it and how you should approach it. Third would be search algorithms. So these would typically be binary search algorithms. They'll give you an array of, let's say, an array, a tree, a graph of really huge numbers, let's say a million or 2 million. So what searching algorithm would you use to actually get a particular node? So I was asked binary search trees in my interview, but again, that's part of searching algorithms, and you have to propose the optimal solution for that. Fourth would be DP, which is dynamic programming. This is, I'd say, the holy grail of DSA. A lot of people, 90% of people are not, they know all of the concepts, but they have a really hard time with dynamic programming because, if to be honest, it's quite a tough and complex topic. It's not easy to get intuitive on, This would typically get very low level over time. So this would then include AWS services like I can use Lambda functions for database read writes, but I need to have a dedicated instance for, let's say, hosting a database. Uh, Third point would be CI/CD pipelines, which is continuous integration and continuous development. So the third point is personally, I'd say very stable to a software developer as well. So this would typically come under DevOps, where you actually set up the cloud infrastructure for production. So what CI/CD pipelines is basically that once you actually push your code on Git, it doesn't just get served to the users automatically. When you push code on the repository, you will most likely be working on a different branch, and then you'll be merging it with production. Your code actually runs through all of your test cases just to make sure that the changes that you made has not broken any other components of the application. Because as you work, your code base would get millions of lines long, and it's not practical to verify each of them manually and test each function. So that's why you write test cases to make sure that your component would work as expected, and you will be working in a team of, let's say, 5-10 people at minimum. So Usman might be working on the backend module. I might be working on, let's say, the machine learning part of it. So both of us are really close knit, because his backend services would be calling my AI services. So when I'm developing something, I can't break something that Usman built, because then the entire application would crash. That's why I would write test cases for my component, which because I want my component to work in a certain way. Again, Usman would write test cases for his component because he wants his component to work in a certain way. That's what CI/CD pipeline does. It validates your entire code base. It tests each component of it. There's a metric called test coverage. It's basically a percentage which tells you how much of the code is covered by test cases, and the higher the percentage, the better. The ideal scenario would be 100% code coverage. That means that each and every line of your code base is covered under the test cases. And after the tests are done, you need to containerize your entire development. So whatever you've done, all the cloud services platforms, they need you to put all of the code in a container which they can deploy, because they don't know what you're developing. They don't know what your application is supposed to do. two to three environments that a company uses. One is obviously your local environment. Second is the staging environment. So once it's actually ready for production, it's first sent off to the staging environment where it's basically the same version what you would push to the live, but first it would go to staging where the testing team would actually test it out. So that's what would be served to the user. And big companies are usually there's usually a testing team which validates all the components and makes sure it works well. Test cases are very good, but again, they still might not be able to capture uh, indirect indirect component impacts. So if I've modified an alert box which is being used on a lot of pages, it might work well on some pages. It might absolutely fuck up the content on some other pages. So that would not be caught in test cases. That's why you need cloud environment basics. There's a famous approach called red green approach, where you basically keep cycling between all of these environments. And the green one would be, let's say, your staging, red would be live. When the staging one is done, you just switch your red environment to green environment to serve that to the user. So it's very important that your application, whatever you develop, has zero downtime and users are not affected by it at all. Again, as I said, structuring and writing test cases. I think this is one of the boring parts that I was talking about. You have to write test cases for all your functions at minimum, and you also have to make sure that it goes through all of the conditional loops. So if you have, let's say, a for loop, but it's not getting executed in some scenarios, let's say n is greater than 10, you only execute the for loop then. So in that case, you have to write two test cases for the function. One where for loop is not invoked, one when for loop is invoked. So that's just something that you learn when you start writing test cases. And yeah, that was it. I hope all of you got to learn something from this session. If you have any questions, here are my contact details. You can shoot me an email at any time. And there's also my contact number if any of you are on WhatsApp. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are a lot of questions right now. Please kindly just spare some minutes, like, help answer all those questions.
Listen, I think you're mute.
Oh, damn. Oh, I'm sorry. So I said there are a lot of questions right now. So I think you can just spare some minutes, because I mean, some of the terminologies were probably like, I mean, because I mean, in Nigeria, like most of the people that are probably like mates, like most of the people that are probably like doing programming, they probably just probably work with, like, I mean, startups and stuff like that. So like it's, you really see people probably like working with, I mean, like even going to like US to like work, even like probably like the maximum they are able to like work is will probably work for some big companies in Nigeria or something like that. So I mean, some of the terminologies might probably like not be not be there or something like that. So like, I mean, let me just ask you a question. Kalu, can you go first? I think
Yeah.
you. Kalu. Oh, Okongbe. Uh, did I pronounce it well?
You did not pronounce it well. I didn't. I know Yoruba man. I would have pardoned
Ṣé
you.
okun
But
ọgbẹ́?
you're Yoruba man.
Is it okun ọgbẹ́?
Oh,
Okay.
Unobole Okun. See, never try.
Okay, go on.
So you can fix it that way. Anyway, thanks very much. Honestly, I don't know the question that I want to ask. It's just a request that I want to make outside. So the thing is, the way I eager for this tonight network just fucked me up. Like, man, I was logged out up to like 5 times. Like, man, the network just fucked me up, honestly. So the network don't do. I want to ask if you can have, and you said that there is no recording for it, and I want to see
Actually,
if we can just have
I already recorded, so don't worry. Okay.
record to, oh,
Okay.
that's one. Then two, GVS, right? I don't know if you can actually, maybe you can actually have him again.
No,
That's my request.
I'm
Open
sorry.
request.
that would be so hard. I mean, he's a very busy person, and I mean, the program is probably going to like.
Yes, I know, but please, we are making an open request now.
No, no, no. If you have any question, just ask him now. I mean, I don't know. Like, if you have any
Okay,
question,
Mr.
just ask him.
Divesh, Mr. Divesh, thank you very much for tonight. My question is this, sir. Can we have you next time?
No, no.
I mean,
Honestly, I
yeah, I
don't.
think
No, like I mean, if you have any question, like if you need anything, just say it now. Like, what is the reason for you need to need him next time? So we can solve that. You can discuss that now. Victor, just go on. I mean, Okoge is not really serious.
again,
Okay.
just before we move on, I
Okay,
think
okay.
we can coordinate the next talk if again if at all I'm called again with Usman. So again, if you have any requests like this, you can reach out to Usman. I would love to come back again here and give another talk. That is, if you'd like to have me. So yeah,
Victor, Victor.
Okay. Thank you, um, Devesh. This is my first time here. I was invited by a friend. Um,
Wow.
so I'm a backend developer with JavaScript, and I noticed that you talk more on Python. And you mentioned testing, right? As a backend, how do I test my phone? What do I use in testing? Because I've not really been testing functions. I just know that once I write my algorithm and then put in the code, it usually works. But I believe
right.
once I'm working with multiple people, I might not really know the algorithm that they've already set up in place to create those functions, and then it might break the whole code at some point. So, what do I use in doing those unit testings and other testing for JavaScript? I have two
Right.
questions, so this is just
So,
one.
right, I think that's a good question because when I was writing this point about test cases, I was thinking that I should also include more specifications on what test modules, what are the test libraries that you should use. But the thing is, there are a lot of different test libraries and test scenarios that you might encounter. So for backend, you'll be using a different framework. For frontend, you'll be using a different framework. For bare bones AI, you'll be using a different framework. So for Node.js, I'm guessing you develop in Node.js. Yeah. So for
Yes,
Node.js, I
correct.
think there's a library, I'm forgetting its name, but there's a specific way that you need to structure your code base. You first need to install the dependencies in your package JSON. You need to make sure that that test framework is compatible with your current Node version. And after that, you just start writing test cases in a different file. So again, just to give an idea of how these test cases would look like, you would these test case file would also be just a list of functions, and this would be invoked when you actually start the build process. The first part of it would be to actually run your test. If any of your tests fail, the build would not proceed further. So this test would be you basically be importing your function into the file, and there are a lot of APIs that these testing frameworks provide. So you'll be able to mock arguments. So let's say if your function is supposed to return a plus b, what you'll do is, okay, I have a plus b. You set it to 2 and 3, and you expect 5. So you'll be passing 2 and 3, and you're expecting 5. So what the test module does is it makes it very easy for you. It will just be simple like xyz function dot call a comma b and expecting 5. So that's how the syntax would look like. And you also have to take into account exception handling. So if you actually get into mocking, I think that's an advanced concept that will come at a later stage. But without mocking, also you can run a lot of test cases. So you basically pass some arguments to your function to make sure it covers all the paths. Like I mentioned, if there's an if statement, you might have to write two test cases. In one case, the statement is executed. In the second case, it's not executed. The point is to get maximum coverage on all lines.
Uh,
Thank you very much. Shit, Devesh.
yeah,
Can you pronounce your name?
Yeah.
yeah, Vish.
Devish.
Devesh.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
second question is for the organizer. That should be Usman, right?
yeah, that's fine.
So I want to go to the right channel. If we want to connect to Devesh, how would we be able to connect to him? It's a question, part of the question. So I just wanted to put it out.
I mean, firstly, you can reach
Right.
out to him on LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn, probably his Twitter account, or I think he also share his number. I mean, but like, I mean, just reach out to him more on LinkedIn, and you can also reach out to him on his number. I mean, so, but like, I think LinkedIn will be probably better. Let me just leave him to talk. But LinkedIn will probably be better.
Yeah, as Usman said, LinkedIn would be better. So
Okay, just share his
All right, I
exact.
was going to ask for that. Thank you. Your Twitter too as well, just in case.
Yeah, I do have Twitter, but I don't use it anymore.
Oh, okay. All right.
Great people don't really need social media. They just, I mean, it's just for like beginners like us that try to like,
Well, actually, Twitter is a really great place to stay up to date on all the tech trends. I use it for that purpose only.
Oh, wow. Uh,
Thank you.
Rashid, please can you just go on so that Rashid, is it up
Yeah,
to?
good evening,
Good,
everyone.
good
Good
evening, bro.
evening, Nipesh. Yeah, I joined. Hello.
I'm sorry, I think your
Yeah,
voice
yeah, I can hear
dropped
you
out.
now. Damn.
Yeah, pertaining to what
Okay.
Nipesh was discussed during the presentation, I just want to ask a few questions from my end, which simply goes like this. When seeking for a remote job, or when seeking for a remote job in a big company like maybe Microsoft or Google or any big tech industry, all LinkedIn's, GitHub, portfolio, and resume, are they compulsory? That's number one. There are some people that they normally say GitHub repository is compulsory. It's compulsory rather. And they will say you should have more than 20 repository in your GitHub profile or 200 repository in
Damn.
your GitHub profile. So that is that about GitHub when it comes to GitHub profile repository. Is it a must to have a such amount of repository in GitHub profile? Because some people will say the HR, the recruiters, they are going to check your GitHub profile. That's for that. When it comes to portfolio, how many projects is it going to be in our portfolio? Is it 2 projects, 3 projects, 5 projects, or it doesn't have a total amount of projects to put in our portfolio? Likewise, when it comes to resume, what should be there for a novice, for a junior developer that doesn't have much experience? How many projects will he put on his resume? That's number three.
Okay.
Number four,
Wow.
does LinkedIn does LinkedIn count when it comes to remote job? How should we structure our LinkedIn profile? Does the recruiters, does the HR, does they normally check our
Damn.
LinkedIn profile? That's all. Thank you.
Good question.
Okay, got it. So, coming to your first question, so the GitHub repository requirements. So, I've not seen companies specifically asking for, okay, you need a GitHub repo with XYZ repositories with XYZ commits. It's definitely a plus point. I'm not saying it's not helpful. It is a plus point, but in the end, it comes down to, let's say, how well you do in TSA, how well your resume was shortlisted. So I don't think it's important to have 200 repositories in your GitHub. A major role that would help your GitHub profile, which again might be 10 times more impactful than just having a repository of your own, would be open source contribution. So you contribute to open source projects on GitHub. You basically raise a pull request. Basically, a pull request is basically you suggest a new feature, and they actually merge it in the actual production code. So that's where open source contributions come in, and companies value open source contributions the most. So that was one. Second was what was second? X number of projects, right?
Okay.
Portfolio.
Yeah. So and there's no number to put in your resume. You don't need 5 projects. You don't need 7 projects. You don't need 8 projects. What you need is a good one good project, which is much more impactful. So more than the number, the quality of the project matters a lot. And if let's say you do have 8 to 10 projects, uh, please don't put all of those projects in your resume. I mean, companies hate that. What you should do is, even if you have 8 to 10 projects, if you're applying for, let's say, a back-end role, apply showcasing your talents, don't put it on your resume. And yeah, I think that answers your third question as well.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, there's LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn. So when you apply for a job through LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile definitely matters. Uh, where the point where your LinkedIn profile matters the most is where recruiters will, are directly reaching out to you. So I personally had cases where Ernst and Young and one more company reached out to me through LinkedIn for a job, and that was solely based on my profile. So again, recruiters LinkedIn for recruiters as a feature where they can filter for certain keywords, certain number of years of experience, certain colleges. So it's very important to have a good LinkedIn profile. First, it would help with the shortlisting process, not the actual technical interview process. And second, it will help you get job offers without applying for it in the first place. So I and a lot of my friends, just because they have great LinkedIn profiles, they keep getting messages in their inboxes that, okay, this is a company, we would like to hire you, we would like to get you on for an interview, something like that. So that's where LinkedIn gets important.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Before you round it up, I want to emphasize on a little thing that you said right now, that when we are preparing our resume or a portfolio, we must put a good project in it. So as a front-end developer, what criteria will you look in your project with, that will give you an edge that this project is a fantastic project? Do you suppose to make it a full applications or just to design it? Do you get? And as a back-end developer, what criteria will be there that you will assure that this project is a standard and well-organized project that when the recruiter see it, they will definitely reach out to me? What should we be targeting
Right,
when building the application as a front end, as
right.
a back end?
Right, so I'll give you an example for one of them. I think that should give you a good idea. So there's no set criteria for what makes a front end or a back end role better. Uh, but what they look for is a project which covers a lot of aspects of it, which are actually, again, good for production. So for backend, let's say, they would be looking for projects which include a lot of integrations. So you're working with external third-party APIs. You've built your own custom API. You're integrating with cloud services, understanding how the database structure looks like. When do you push? When do you write? When do you don't write? When do you use a cache? All of that. So they look for all these concepts which are included in your projects, and the project which covers maximum of all these bases, that one you should include. And for the front end part, front end you can only write so much in the description part. Uh, Make sure to also include a link to your front end project in your resume. Uh, in PDFs also, you can just click on links and it'll take you to your site. So be sure to include links wherever you can. If you have a project and if you have a demo link, just add a link to it.
Yeah, thank you very much. The last two guys who are raising up your hand, kindly just ask it together because I mean it's right. It's 2:23 and there is class tomorrow, probably at 9. So the three guys just Kesandu. I'm sorry if I pronounce it wrong. Kesandu, kindly just go on, ask a question, be quick about it. Uh,
Yes, you are correct. Yes, Sandu.
yeah.
Okay, I actually have many questions, but number one, I still want to say thank you, David, for your time. You really give us a lot of value. Then I also want to say, I just sent you a LinkedIn request. I just sent a connection request on LinkedIn. Then, okay, I want to ask, can you share your reason with us?
I'm sorry, what?
He's saying
Can you share?
if possible you can share your resume, but I don't know. Or probably if you can, I mean if you can probably if you can see some proof. What is it called? Some what is this English? Some
Standard.
I mean some standard like some sample
Template.
template exactly. Exactly. You can just I mean
Right. Yeah, sure. I'll just share my screen and you can view a basic template of how my resume looks like. So,
this is also an opportunity for me.
so can you see the resume? So this is how it should be structured. The first section should be education. Uh, Again, uh, if you don't have good marks, don't include it. I'm yet to remove all of my marks. Uh, then I have the experience part of it and the project part of it. So again, my initial resume was 3-4 pages long, but after going through a lot of rejections, I boiled it down to a single page. So all the key points are highlighted. The metrics, for let's say ROAS of 8, what the revenue was in the first month, and what the project was, the description. Again, as I said, I've also included links to my project. Then what would my other positions that I feel are relevant to what I'm applying for? These would be elected tech secretary, that shows my leadership skills. Again, head of trading and founder. Uh, this you can add it if you want, but I would not recommend adding this. This is my old resume. My newer resume has a lot of these points filtered out. So yeah, this is the skills section that I was talking about. What skills, uh, what skills do I have which are relevant to tech? So I've added the programming languages. Also add a product management section where you just specify generic tools which are basic for everyone. Figma, Canva, Photoshop, AdWords, Ad Managers, all of that.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. Then those skills you highlighted when you were in session, VCs, SDLC, I think I was thinking that they are DevOps roles, and also where can we pick up those skills?
Was it a VCS systems like GitHub?
no, no, not really GitHub. Like the other, like we were talking about some containerized, all this pipeline stuff, all this DevOps cloud stuff like that. So it's actually like where can someone see like some? I mean, you like something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is all part of the HDL, a part of HDLC and CI/CD pipeline. So HDLC is again software development lifecycle. That's not an in-depth approach. It will just give you a brief overview of what the entire process looks like. And after that, the second part would be CI/CD pipelines. So all of that is covered under CI/CD pipelines. Again, CI/CD pipelines is a
I think you get the question wrong. He's saying like what is the question like? Can you recommend the kind of places where they can probably like get resources to like learn at least the basics, something like that?
okay, okay, got it. I mean, there's not a single
Exactly.
website that I use. Uh, you generally you do best of searching it off on Google, and if you have GPT, that's the best place to resolve all your doubts. Before you needed someone to actually clarify your doubts, you were not sure if this is even a valid question to ask, if someone will make fun of me. So you can ask your stupidest doubts on ChatGPT. Now we also have Google Bard. So if it's some, if the topic is live, it's not yet, it's relatively new, it's not yet been released for GPT, then you could use Bard for that. And I think that should resolve all your doubts. There are a lot of free YouTube playlists which you
Ah.
can use to actually learn. So YouTube playlists are something that you should do 100% before you move on to any other resource. If there's a YouTube playlist for the topic that you want, you should watch the entire playlist and learn from it. And if you want to get more hands-on proper project experiences, one approach would be MIT Open Courseware. It's basically MIT, they make all their courses and material open for everyone. So there are also YouTube videos for that, and they also publish assignments and projects which you can test out. And third would be Udemy. Uh, Most of you might be familiar with Udemy. It's a course aggregation platform where you can search for any topic, any course, and you'll be greeted with a bunch of courses. They are taught in video. You also have all the material available. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Can we take two more questions?
We'll take one last question now.
Oh, damn. I think Emmanuel raised up his hand first. Rufai, you can probably like, just drop it as a type, but like, Emmanuel, quickly just go on. Rufai, just type
What
it.
I just need, what I just need from Divesh is his GitHub account so that we can explore from his vast of
Do you
experience
really
and
use
stuff.
it up? Not everyone, I mean, not, I mean, when you get to some level, you just drop it off.
Right. Sorry, Usman, where are you schooling?
Hmm? That doesn't. Does that matter? Emmanuel, quickly go on.
It does, because I'm ready to 23. I'm ready to 23. I'm having class tomorrow. It matters, because I thought you are here, yeah, maybe yes, you are in school.
I'm not a.
But since
I
I
left
see
you
you are
already.
here,
I'm not a UI student. I'm sorry. ah,
uh,
yeah. You can talk to me later about that. Emmanuel, is Emmanuel? Oh, I don't think. I mean,
can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. Be fast.
Hello, can you? Okay. My question is that I don't know if just, I don't know the name, sir. I don't know how to pronounce it, sir. If you can come back for our guys, if can organize another program because we came late.
On what topic? If I'm going, see, if I'm going, to, you guys are saying I should organize another. I mean, another for Divesh to come.
Session.
Another session. But like, see, I mean, firstly, the question is on what do you why what do you want him to discuss exactly. Another thing is that there is I mean, you guys, like, few numbers of people showed up, so we can't keep. I'm also a student. Yves is also a student. He has a lot of stuff to do. I mean, so it just. I mean, if you have any question, just contact me. I will get in touch with him. If it is something that I can answer, I will answer you. If it is something that I need him to like answer, I will definitely get answer for him. He's a very busy man. Me also, like, personally, I'm still learning, so I'm so like so damn busy. I mean, you can I have a lot of stuff. So I mean, if you have any question, we are ready to like I just drop it. But like we can't just keep wasting. Eh?
The second question is that how can we get the LinkedIn username and the phone number?
The
That is,
what?
how can we contact him?
I mean, he has dropped his LinkedIn. I will also share his contact with you on the group. He has dropped his LinkedIn. I will also drop it again.
Okay.
So I will also drop it again. Let me drop it again.
Okay.
So don't keep the Vesh waiting. I'll probably waste his time today. He really like deliver. Like, I'm so happy. I was just smiling because the contents were like, because it is so very rare to actually see this kind of content in from a Nigerian developer. Like, it's so rare. I mean, I've experience with like a lot of even like very good developers, but like it's so rare to like get all this kind of
Oh,
content.
mommy, I don't miss the content too. How we get that move?
So
I don't see this. I've logged into sign account. I have sent message to him
Okay,
now.
okay. Yeah, yeah, fine, fine. So, Divesh, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I know you're a very busy person. I mean, for you to allocate these numbers of hours, I mean, you were supposed to like, have been sleeping right now, but like for you to allocate the time, I really appreciate it. Thank you for the content. It was really like very educating, and I mean, I also personally, I mean, one of the reasons why I actually like organize this was also to like learn from different top G's like you guys. So, so I mean, and I'm very sure like a lot of people also like, I mean, learned a lot through the I mean, from what you have actually delivered. So I mean, is it possible we can share the slide? I don't know if that is also possible.
Yeah, I'll send a link to you. You can forward it on the
Yes, it's possible. You can. Then a Google is a what's it called?
Yeah, we
It's
share
the
the
name of
link.
Google Drive now.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Divesh. I mean, for next week,
Stop next time. Oh. Come back
so
next time, I beg.
So for next week, next week will probably be like the final. So next week is going to be like the final round. So someone will be talking about like open source, and as the verse has already like said, open source is like one of also like important, stuff in software development and stuff. So just try to be available. Like no matter what your level is or something like that, and there'll probably be like I will probably like release a video during the week on GitHub. I will tell someone to I might probably share a YouTube link because there are a lot of, as the verse said, there are a lot of playlists on YouTube. Like uh, the verse I've actually like seen many people just dropping, just showcasing certificate. I was telling someone that certificate is just as useless as anything in SE. Showcase your project. We don't care about your certificate.
As cockroach.
Exactly. So we don't really care about your certificate. Just showcase your project. Like if you are just throwing certificate around, no one cares. Show your project. That's just so YouTube. Just learn through YouTube. There is no need for you to like be looking for certificate up and down. You are just wasting your time. Showcase your project. That's like the best thing. As the verse has said. So guys, thank you guys for joining. Don't let me keep you guys waiting. Don't let me keep the verse waiting. See you guys. See you guys. See you guys. Thank you very much, Divesh. See you. Bye.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.